The Galactic Council chamber was alive with noise, a storm of laughter and smug voices echoing off walls of glass and silver. Holographic images hovered over the long table, showing a battlefield near the rim worlds. Dozens of human ships were burning, their wreckage drifting through space while a small raiding fleet of Grok pirates celebrated their victory. The humans had fought for hours, but one by one, their ships had fallen. The final recording showed the last human vessel erupting into flames before the transmission cut to static around the chamber. Representatives of 50 alien races exchanged amused glances. The Grok warlord, scales glistening under the council's lights, let out a rasping laugh that echoed like broken machinery. "See," he said, "these creatures of Earth are soft. They break, they burn, and they die easily. And yet they think they belong among us." Laughter rippled through the chamber again. The council's leader, a tall, insect-like being named Crixer, tapped a claw against the table for order, though his own mandibles twitched in amusement. "Humanity," he said slowly, "is no threat to us. They are, an inconvenience perhaps, but nothing more." A few murmurs of agreement rose, but one voice did not join in. Ambassador Soleil of the Thaurin sat quietly, her smooth, featureless face turned toward the hologram. Her species rarely spoke in council, unless they felt it was important. Now her voice, calm and low, cut through the laughter. "They lost, yes," Soleil said. "But did you see how they fought? Not one ship tried to run. Even when they knew they would die, they kept firing, kept learning, kept watching." Her words lingered like a cold draft in the room. Some of the laughter faded. The Grok warlord snorted. "They are primitive. Their courage is pointless. What does bravery mean when your bones snap so easily?" Soleil tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Bravery," she said softly, "means they will not stop. They study every battle, every death. They are like a storm, building quietly before it hits. And when it hits, it does not stop." Her words drew silence for a moment, but soon the council returned to chatter and jokes. The hologram faded, replaced by the council's usual glowing emblem. The humans were dismissed from the conversation, their threat forgotten, but far from. The chamber, on the dark edge of the galaxy. Something stirred. Beneath the cold light of a dying star, a single human vessel drifted silently. Its black hull swallowed the starlight, almost invisible against the void. No transponder, no signal, no life signs. To any scanning ship, it would look like debris. A dead hulk, floating without purpose. But inside, the crew moved in silence. Eyes fixed on glowing tactical maps, Captain Arden Cole stood at the center of the command deck, his hands clasped behind his back. His face was hard, lined by years of war. His eyes focused on the projection of the Grok fleet still celebrating their easy victory. Around him, his officers worked without a word. Fingers gliding over control panels, the hum of the ship's systems the only sound. "They laughed again, didn't they?" Arden said at last, his voice low. His first officer, a pale woman named Rena, glanced up from her station. "Yes, sir. The council sees us as weak, a minor threat." Arden's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Good," he said. "Let them laugh a little longer. They have no idea what's coming." Ship's engines powered up with a soft thrum, but there was no bright flare, no sign to give away its movement. It slipped into the darkness, heading toward an uncharted system where no council ship dared to go. Back in the council chamber, the laughter faded as a messenger drone arrived, its body scorched and cracked. It had been dispatched days earlier to investigate the disappearance of 3 council patrol ships near the rim. Now it hovered over the council table, projecting a damaged recording. Static filled the air before a terrified voice broke through. "This is Patrol Theta 7. We found something. It's not pirates, it's not raiders, it's humans, but not like before. Their ship." The voice cut off in a burst of static. The hologram froze on a single frame, a dark silhouette of a vessel, its outline jagged, wrong, like something built for war rather than travel. The council members stared at it in uneasy silence. "Is this real?" Crixer asked, his mandibles clicking nervously. It was pulled directly from the drone's core memory. The technician replied, "No signs of tampering. The patrol is gone. No wreckage, no escape pods. Just this." For the first time that day, no one laughed. Sally's voice broke the silence again. "You still think they are weak?" she asked softly. "You still think they are a minor threat?" No one answered. Outside the chamber's glass walls, the endless stars of the galaxy burned quietly. Unaware of the storm slowly rising among them, on the dark ship, Captain Arden stood before a massive viewport, watching the stars stretch as they entered faster than light travel. "The Council will notice us soon," she said. Arden nodded slowly. "Let them. By the time they understand what we've built, by the time they realize why we've been losing." He turned, his eyes like steel. "It will already be too late for them to stop us." Now the stars outside blurred into streaks of white as the ship vanished into the void, leaving only silence behind. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, an alarm began to sound in the Council's intelligence networks. Warning of human activity deep in restricted space. Most of the Council dismissed it. Just humans. Just a minor threat. But Sally watched the blinking red signals on her private display, her expression cold. She knew what the others did not. Humanity had been preparing for something for a long time. They weren't expanding like the other races. They weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were building, learning, testing. Every defeat had been a lesson. And now, as her display filled with red alerts, she whispered a single thought to herself. They aren't coming to survive anymore. They're coming to win. In the deep void, Captain Arden's ship powered down all lights and systems as it reached its destination. A massive, ancient structure floated ahead, an abandoned warforge from a forgotten age, a place where weapons, too dangerous for the galaxy, were locked away. The ship docked silently, its crew moving like shadows. Arden stared at the massive gates of the forge. "Wake it up," he ordered. It's time they remembered why humans should never be underestimated. As the gates opened, a deep vibration shook the ship. Lights flickered on across the structure, one by one, like a sleeping beast drawing breath. From somewhere deep within, a low mechanical hum began to grow. Back in the heart of the Council's Capital Crixer finally silenced the chamber with a sharp strike of his claw. "Enough about the humans," he snapped. "They are finished. The rim worlds are secure. Let us move on to..." Before he could finish, the chamber lights dimmed as a priority transmission forced its way onto the Council's main display. Static. Then a single sentence, calm and cold, played over the speakers. "You called us weak. You should not have done that." The display cut to black. No one spoke. The laughter was gone. And somewhere far from the safety of their capital, something old and human began to awaken in the dark. The first reports were whispers. Merchant convoys that never arrived, patrol ships that vanished without a signal. At first, the Galactic Council dismissed them as accidents, pirates, malfunctions, navigation errors. Space was dangerous after all. A few missing ships meant nothing to a galaxy of thousands. But then the silence grew. Entire trade routes, once busy with hundreds of vessels, went dark. Automated beacons along the rim stopped transmitting. The few distress calls that did come through were cut off mid-sentence, filled with static and strange echoing sounds. None of the recordings made sense. Some swore they heard human voices, calm and cold, speaking words in a language no one could translate. The Council sent investigation teams, fast, heavily armed cruisers from 3 different species. None returned. Near the frozen world of Vathos, a lone survey ship picked up a drifting freighter. Showed no damage, no signs of attack, only faint power signatures. The crew docked carefully, weapons drawn. The freighter's lights flickered. Dimly as they moved through its corridors, every door stood open. Supplies were untouched. The ship's logs showed a normal journey. No warnings, no enemy contact. But there was no crew, not a single body. No blood, no signs of struggle, just absence. as if the people had walked away and vanished into the void. In the cargo bay, one of the surveyors found something scratched into the metal wall. Deep and deliberate, in jagged human script, "Do not follow the shadows." The surveyors left in silence, their ship jumping to hyperspace before finishing the inspection. The freighter drifted on, a tomb without bodies, a warning without explanation. In the council's capital, panic began to grow, representatives argued, shouting over one another. Some blamed the Grok, saying the pirates had found a new weapon. Others accused the Caliph, claiming they were using the chaos to expand their borders. But when one of the missing cruisers finally reappeared, adrift near the council's territory, the truth began to surface. Recovery teams boarded the ship cautiously. Like the freighter, there were no bodies. The interior was cold, covered in scorch marks and strange circular burns. Every system was dead, except for a single repeating transmission. Playing on every console and speaker, it was a human voice. Calm, almost whispering. "We are not your prey. You taught us how to fight. Now we show you what we learned." The recording looped over and over until the recovery team shut it down. Salai of the Thalrin listened to the report in silence. She had warned the council, but none had listened. Now, she watched as footage of the cruiser's interior flickered across her private display. The burns on the walls, the vanished crew, the chilling message, none of it looked like pirate work. None of it looked like any technology the council knew humans had. Her assistant, a younger Thalrin, broke the silence.
Almost.
"Should we inform the others?" Salai's voice was soft, but it carried a weight that silenced the room. "Not yet. We speak too soon. They will laugh again. They need to see for themselves first." Far from the capital, in a region of space avoided by every species, the silent human vessel moved through the void. It had no markings, no lights, no identifying features. Its engines emitted almost no energy signature. To most sensors, it was nothing more than debris inside. Captain Arden Cole stood over a circular table where a holographic map of the rim worlds floated in blue light. Dozens of council outposts glowed red, each marked for destruction. His officers waited quietly as he studied the map. "How many ships are active now?" Arden asked. 6, Rena replied. 3 in position along the Vathos corridor. 3 more waiting near the Tariq Nebula, all cloaked, all silent. Arden nodded, and the council's response. "They still think it's raiders. They're moving fleets away from their core worlds to secure the trade lanes." A faint smile touched Arden's lips. "Good. The longer they chase ghosts, the less prepared they'll be when we strike where it matters." On the bridge, alarms pulsed softly as a new signal appeared. Council patrol ship had entered the region, scanning for missing vessels. Arden glanced at the display, his expression unreadable. "Make it quick," he said. The dark ship shifted, its hull panels sliding open. There was no bright flare, no dramatic volley of weapons. A thin beam of invisible energy lanced through space, and the patrol ship's lights went dark. Its engines died, its systems failed, and it drifted silently. Within minutes, automated. Drones from the human vessel latched onto the patrol ship, their tools cutting with mechanical precision. The crew of the patrol ship never had time to send a message. They vanished as the drones moved, and when the ship was released, it was as empty as the others. The human vessel disappeared into the shadows before any nearby sensor could catch it. Hours later, the council received a brief, distorted transmission. A single word, repeated 3 times, each time louder, more distorted. "Run." Salai listened to the message alone. She knew it wasn't a threat. It was a warning, not to the council, but to everyone else. The humans didn't want to scare their enemies into hiding. They wanted them to gather, to bring their fleets and their leaders together, because that was when the real strike would come. In a hidden base on a barren moon, Arden Cole watched the captured patrol ship being dismantled by machines. Its components would be studied, copied, and repurposed. Nothing wasted, nothing returned. Around the base, 6 more silent ships floated, each one carrying something far worse than weapons. Rena approached, her face pale in the dim light. How long until they understand what's happening? She asked. Arden didn't answer at first. He stared at the patrol ship's gutted hull, the sparks flying as machines carved it apart. Then he turned, his voice low and steady. By the time they understand, he said, they won't have anywhere left to run. In the cold void above, the ghost fleet began to move again, silent shadows slipping through the stars. Trade lanes emptied. Beacons went dark, and every ship that went to investigate disappeared, leaving only whispers behind. Back in the council chamber, the arguments continued. Some demanded a full-scale assault on Earth. Others wanted to block all human trade and starve them into submission. Crixer slammed his claw against the table, silencing the voices. We do not cower before a minor species, he growled. We will crush their fleets, burn their colonies, and end this nuisance. Sally watched him, her expression calm but cold. She knew the humans weren't attacking colonies. They weren't fighting battles to claim territory. They were hunting fleets, bleeding the council's strength. One ship at a time. And when the council finally realized it, when their fleets were stretched too thin and their worlds too exposed, the humans would strike not as a nuisance, not as prey, but as predators. The council chamber fell into uneasy silence as another report arrived. 12 more ships gone, no wreckage, no survivors. Only the same human transmission repeating through the void. We are not your prey. For the first time in centuries, the council began to feel something they had almost forgotten: fear. The first scream did not come from a soldier. It came from a child on Chorus Prime, a massive trade world at the center of the rim. No one knew why she screamed. No one knew why. Minutes later, the city lights flickered and died across the planet. At first, people thought it was a power failure, and communications failed. Every ship in orbit tried to reach the surface. No one answered hours later. The Galactic Council received a silent alert from the Chorus Prime relay station, a single flashing signal, repeating again and again. System compromised. Do not enter. Do not. The message cut off, leaving static. The Council reacted fast. Chorus Prime was home to 80 million people, and the core trade hub for half the rim. They sent a fleet of 30 warships and 5 search cruisers, expecting an enemy blockade or a planet-wide riot. But when the fleet arrived, there was no blockade, no enemy fleet. The planet turned silently below, its oceans calm, its cities dark. From orbit, the cities looked intact. No explosions, no smoke, no sign of battle. But the streets were empty. No vehicles moved. No voices came through open channels. Life signs, once numbering in the millions, barely registered on scanners. The commander of the search fleet, Admiral Torvik, tried to contact the surface. His voice echoed across the planet. This is the Galactic Council fleet. Respond immediately. Citizens of Chorus Prime, where are you? Only static answered. Against protocol, Torvik ordered a landing team. 2 dropships descended, their thrusters lighting the dead city below. They touched down in the central plaza of the capital. The buildings around them stood tall and undamaged, their windows dark. The landing team moved cautiously, their boots echoing against the silent streets. Their scanners showed faint readings, flickers of movement deep in the city. But the signals vanished whenever they tried to track them. Inside one of the skyscrapers, they found a wall smeared with something dark. It was not blood, it was too black, too thick, clinging to the surface like tar. Scratched into the wall, in jagged, desperate lines, were 3 words in the human language: do not wake it. Before they could react, there comes cutout. Static swallowed their voices. One of the soldiers screamed, claiming to hear something whispering behind the walls, a voice calling his name in perfect detail. When they turned to calm him, he was gone, no trace. His weapon lay on the ground, still warm. The remaining team scrambled back to their dropships, but when they reached the plaza, the dropships were cold. Their power cores were drained, their systems dead. No lights, no engines, as if something had drained the energy from every circuit. Up in orbit, Torvik's ships tried to contact them, but the planet itself seemed to pulse with interference. Strange bursts of static, whispers in dozens of languages, filled their channels. One voice rose above the noise, calm and human. Leave or stay and disappear. Torvik, a veteran of 100 battles, felt his spine shiver. He ordered his fleet to lock weapons on the city. They couldn't rescue their soldiers. They would destroy whatever was down there. But before the order could be carried out, the ship's systems began to fail. One by one, their power readings dropped. Lights flickered. Engines stalled. Weapons went offline. Through the darkness, a single human vessel appeared, sliding silently into orbit, small, almost unarmed. By the look of it, its black hull blending with the void. But every council ship froze when they saw it, not because of its size, because their systems, without warning, stopped obeying their commands. Their engines stayed dead. Their weapons remained offline. On every screen, a single message appeared, written in human script. We warned you. You called us weak, then. Without firing a single shot, the human ship vanished into the void, its engines leaving no trail. Moments later, the power returned to the fleet. But Chorus Prime remained silent, the dropship still grounded, the landing team unresponsive. Torvik ordered a retreat. For the first time in his career, he abandoned a mission. The fleet left Chorus Prime behind, its dark cities untouched but lifeless. No one spoke on the return journey. The council demanded answers, but Torvik only gave them one sentence. The planet is not ours anymore. It doesn't belong to anyone. Slay received the report before the others. She played the recording of the human message over and over, her face unreadable. Around her, the Thalran embassy whispered in fear. They took Chorus Prime without firing a shot, one aide said. How? Why? Why? Salai stared at the dark hologram of the planet, the silent cities turning slowly in the projection. Her voice was almost a whisper when she answered. They're not conquering, they're warning us. Every system they touch is a message. And none of you are listening. Far from Chorus Prime, Captain Arden Cole stood on the observation deck of his ship. Below, the planet glowed faintly, a pale blue jewel spinning in the dark. Rena joined him, her voice quiet. Chorus Prime is completely silent, she said. Their fleets will pull back to protect their core worlds now, exactly as you planned. Arden nodded, his face cold and calm. Good, let them retreat. Let them think distance will save them. He turned from the viewport, his boots echoing softly on the deck, because when we move next, there will be no distance left. In the void behind them, more ships began to emerge, silent black there, hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. The ghost fleet had grown. Each ship carried something deep in its core, something not seen in the galaxy for centuries. And somewhere in the darkness below, Chorus Prime, where no scanner could reach, a low, mechanical hum began to stir. The city streets trembled as ancient machinery awakened. No, the planet itself was no longer just a warning. It was becoming something worse. Back in the council chamber, panic reached a breaking point. Crixer demanded immediate war, calling for a full invasion of Earth. Others shouted for a total blockade to cut humanity off from every system. But even as they argued, a new transmission cut through their voices, hijacking every screen. And every channel the image was simple. A single human officer, his face shadowed, his eyes cold. His voice, steady and quiet, echoed across the chamber. You laughed. You called us weak. Now you will see what your laughter created. Transmission ended, and across the galaxy, systems began to go dark one by one. As the ghost fleet spread like a shadow no one could stop. The Galactic Council met an emergency session, their chamber no longer filled with laughter or smugness. The holographic table glowed red, covered in blinking alerts. 6 RIM systems had gone dark in the last 10 days. No transmissions, no survivors. The only messages they received were cryptic, whispered warnings in human voices, repeating the same words. You called us weak. Now you see the cost. The council's leaders shouted over one another, their fear boiling into rage. Crixer slammed a clawed fist onto the table, cracking the holographic projection. Enough. He roared, we are the greatest civilization in the galaxy. These humans will not dictate terms to us. We crush them now, before their shadow fleet can spread any further. A dozen voices supported him, demanding an immediate strike. On Earth, but Saleya the Thalrin sat in silence, her pale face unreadable. When the chamber quieted, her soft voice cut through the noise like a knife. "Do you even understand what is happening?" she asked. "These aren't raids. This isn't conquest. Humanity's not taking territory. They're dismantling us. Piece by piece, while you waste your strength chasing shadows. You think Earth is the threat?" Crixer's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Then what do you suggest, Thalrin? Sit here and watch them kill our worlds one by one? Iles?" Black, pupilless eyes glinted in the dim light. "No. I suggest we understand how they are doing this before we send another fleet to die, because every ship we've sent so far has been erased." But Crixer was already signaling his aides. A new hologram filled the air, a massive fleet. Nearly 500 warships from every major species, forming the largest armada assembled. "In centuries, they will not erase this," Crixer growled. "We take our fleets, strike their staging grounds near the Tariq Nebula, and burn them out of the stars. We end this now." Soleil stared at the projection of the fleet, her expression unchanged. She knew what was coming, though no one would listen. The fleet gathered near the Tariq Nebula, its warships bristling with weapons, their shields humming as engineers pushed them to full power. 500 ships, enough firepower to level a dozen worlds, moved as one toward the coordinates of the last human ghost fleet sighting. Morale was high. The Council broadcast the fleet's assembly across the galaxy, telling every species that the human threat would be erased in one decisive battle. But as the fleet closed in on the nebula, sensors picked up. Nothing. No human ships. Number. Beacons. It's just the dark, swirling clouds of the nebula, its ion storms flickering like silent lightning. Admiral Torvik, commanding from the flagship, felt his spines bristle. "Stay alert," he ordered. "They're here. They want us to come in deeper." The fleet pushed forward, weapons charged. Static began to creep into their communications, a faint hiss like breathing in the background of every transmission. Then, the first ship vanished. No explosion, no weapons fire. One moment it was there, the next it was gone from every scanner. Before anyone could react, 3 more ships disappeared, their signals cutting to black as if they'd been swallowed by the nebula itself. Panic rippled through the fleet, captains shouting over one another, weapons firing into the swirling void. Their shots struck nothing but gas and lightning. From the mist, a shape emerged. It was not a fleet. It was a single ship, enormous, its black hole stretching across their entire forward view. Its design was unlike any human craft they had seen, a jagged, predatory silhouette that seemed to drink in the nebula's light. Its surface shifted and shimmered, as if parts of it were alive. "Target the vessel," Torvik barked. Hundreds of weapons locked on, unleashing a storm of energy blasts and missile strikes. The explosions lit up the nebula, and then vanished, absorbed into the ship's shifting hull. No damage, not even a scratch. Then the ship's surface opened. It didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, a pulse of invisible energy rippled outward, passing through the fleet like a wave. Every ship it touched went silent, engines dead, shields gone, weapons offline. One by one, the 500 warships drifted helplessly in space, their crews shouting as systems failed around them. A voice filled every ship simultaneously. Calm, human, and cold. "You measured us. You called us a minor threat. Now you see what we built while you laughed." The massive vessel moved silently among the frozen fleet. It didn't destroy them all at once. Instead, drones emerged from its hull, thousands of them, each no larger than a fighter, swarming through the armada like a tide of metal insects. They latched onto the council ships, cutting through holes with surgical precision. Screams echoed over open channels as crews were pulled out into the void or dragged aboard the drones for reasons no one understood. Torvik was watching his flagships. Bridge fill with a strange flickering blue mist, realized too late what was happening. This wasn't war. This was harvesting. Within an hour, the Great Armada was gone, not destroyed. The only thing left behind was a single data drone, drifting at the edge of the nebula. When the council recovered it, they found a short message burned. Into its memory, do not send fleets. Do not resist, or there will be nothing left to surrender. Back in the council chamber, chaos erupted. KR species demanded evacuation from the rim. Others called for desperate peace talks. Humiliated and furious, pounded his claw against the table. They are one world, he shouted. One. We will burn Earth itself if we must. But Salai leaned forward, her voice colder than ever. It is not Earth. You still do not understand. That thing in the nebula.
8.
It is not a fleet. It is not a ship. It is a weapon, older than their wars with us. They did not build it for us. They built it because one day they knew they might need to become more than prey. Crixer glared at her. And how do you know this, Thaurin? Her black eyes fixed on him. Because my spies tell me the humans call it by a name. A name. From their old language, one they only use for things built to end civilizations. She paused, letting the silence stretch across the chamber. Every council member leaning closer despite themselves. They call it Extinction Class. Across the galaxy, in a dark hangar buried beneath a dead moon, Captain Arden Cole watched. As his officers calibrated the colossal ship's core, hum vibrated through the station, low and deep, like the breathing of a giant. Rena stood beside him, her voice low. The council will panic. They'll retreat to their inner worlds now. They will think they are safe behind their defenses. Darden's lips curved into a faint smile. Good. That is exactly where we want them. Above the moon, more ghost ships gathered. They're silent. Hulls glinting faintly in the distant starlight. Galaxy had seen their shadow. It had felt their warning, but it hadn't yet seen what humanity could do when it finally stopped pretending to be weak. The galaxy was no longer laughing. Entire sectors had gone dark. The rim, once busy with trade and military patrols, had become a graveyard. The ghost fleet moved without warning, striking at outposts and warships alike. It didn't conquer, didn't hold territory. It just erased everything the Galactic Council sent against it, on the Council's capital world. The skies above the Grand Chamber burned with defense shields. The atmosphere buzzed with the constant hum of powered weapons, orbital guns, and cloaked interceptors. It was supposed to be the most secure planet in the known galaxy. Yet fear spread through its streets like a sickness. Refugees poured in from dying sectors, whispering stories of empty planets, vanished fleets, and black ships that didn't appear on sensors until it was too late. Some claimed the humans had unleashed a living machine, something that devoured energy and ships alike. Others swore they'd heard voices, human voices, through the static of their failing comms, whispering promises of surrender or annihilation. Inside the council chamber, Crixer roared over the gathered leaders. His clawed hands slammed down so hard the table's holograms flickered and died. We cannot allow this to continue, he bellowed. We will not kneel to Earth. We strike now, burn their world before they bring this shadow fleet to our core systems. The council erupted in shouts, some in agreement, others demanding negotiations. Admiral Torvik, survivor of the Terek Nebula massacre, stood silently at the far end of the chamber. His scales had dulled, his spines drooped, and his voice, when it came, was barely more than a whisper. You do not understand, Torvik said. They don't care about Earth. They don't care about their planet. They care about us. They don't need territory. They don't want peace. They want control. Before anyone could answer, the lights dimmed. Every screen, every projection, every device in the chamber went black. Then a single image flickered to life, projected into the air above the council table. It was a human commander, face shadowed, eyes sharp and cold. He didn't shout. His voice was calm, measured, and yet it carried through every speaker on the planet. Echoing in every home, every ship, every council office. You built your empire by calling others weak, the voice said, and it by laughing. As you broke worlds and enslaved species, you thought humanity was no different, that we were prey, fragile, harmless. You were wrong. The hologram shifted, showing the destroyed fleets drifting in silence, their hulls cut open like carcasses. Then it showed the dark shape of the Extinction-class ship, its vast form blotting out the nebulous stars as it moved. "You have one choice," the voice continued. "Surrender your fleets, disband your armies, submit your council to human oversight, or every system you rule will vanish one by one until nothing remains." The image zoomed in on the human commander's face. His expression never changed. His eyes were as cold as space itself. "You have 7 cycles to decide." The hologram vanished. The lights returned, but the chamber was silent. Even Crixer, who had been shouting for war minutes earlier, said nothing. Fear hung in the air, like a heavy fog. Outside the chamber, the galaxy began to panic. Entire planets declared independence from the Council, hoping humanity would spare them if they weren't part of the central government. Merchant guilds shut down trade routes, terrified of the Ghost Fleet, but not everyone was willing to kneel. Crixer gathered what remained of the Council's military leaders in secret, swearing they would not surrender. "We still have numbers," he hissed. "We still have weapons. They may have their monster ship, but we will crush their world before it reaches us. While the Council hesitates, we act." His plan was bold and desperate. A strike force of 200 ships would bypass the Ghost Fleet, head straight for Earth. If they could destroy humanity's homeworld, but just maybe, they could force the humans to retreat. But as the strike force gathered, preparing to jump into hyperspace, the stars around them dimmed. The Extinction-class ship emerged from the void, silent and enormous, its black hull glinting faintly in the faint starlight. It had no escorts, no visible weapons, yet every captain in the strike force felt their blood run cold. Before they could fire, their ship systems died. Engines went cold. Shields collapsed. Weapons froze. Deep vibration rolled through space. As the ship's core began to glow, a faint, unnatural blue, on every dead console, a single message appeared. "We warned you." The glow intensified. The captains screamed orders, but their ships did not respond. The vibration grew until it felt like the very fabric of space trembled. Then, in a single pulse of blue light, the entire strike force vanished. Not destroyed, not scattered. Gone, back on the Council capital. Every system went dark for 3 full minutes as a shockwave of energy washed through the galaxy. When power returned, a single new transmission waited on every device. Every language, a human voice, calm as ever. "You have 6 cycles left." In the shadows of a dead moon, Captain Arden Cole stood aboard the Extinction-class vessel as its energy. Core dimmed again. Rena approached quietly, her voice low. "They'll have no choice soon. The Council will kneel, or they'll have nothing left to kneel with." Arden stared through the viewport at the distant stars. "They still don't understand. We're not doing this for revenge, or power," he turned, his gaze cold as steel. "We're doing this because we will never be prey again." Outside, the Ghost Fleet assembled in perfect silence, ships aligning in formation around the colossal Extinction-class vessel. They didn't move like a fleet preparing for war. They moved like a predator circling its prey, waiting for the moment to strike. And as the galaxy trembled, every world wondered the same thing. Would the Council surrender? Or would humanity erase everything? The galaxy had run out of patience. For weeks, the Ghost Fleet had stalked the rim, dismantling the Council's forces, system by system. Planets went silent. Fleets vanished. The name Extinction-class spread like a curse, whispered in every language. Across every surviving colony, the Galactic Council, desperate and cornered, gathered the largest armada ever assembled in its history, over 1,000 warships. Drawn from every major species, armed with experimental weapons and shield technology, entire economies had been gutted to fund it. Whole worlds were stripped of defenses to feed the fleet. This was their last chance. Admiral Torvik, still scarred from the Tark Nebula, stood on the command deck of the lead dreadnought, his spines rigid, his voice cold. "Today," said to his officers, "we end the human threat. Whatever weapon they've unleashed, whatever fleet they hide, we burn it out of the stars. We will not kneel." The armada moved toward the Orban expanse, where scouts had finally tracked the Ghost Fleet's movements. The region was dark and Silent, a vast emptiness dotted with dying stars. Perfect hunting ground for humanity's new war machine. But this time, the Council fleet wasn't coming blind. Their ships were armed with pulse detonators designed to disrupt cloaking fields. And gravitic nets meant to lock down enemy movement. They had learned from every defeat. They had watched how the humans struck, and now they believed they were ready. The pulse detonators ignited as the fleet entered the expanse. Washing the void in ripples of energy, the shadows shifted. And for the first time, the ghost fleet revealed. Itself, hundreds of black ships slid out of the darkness, their hulls shimmering like liquid shadows, surrounding the armada on all sides. At the center floated the Extinction-class vessel, a mountain of shifting black metal, its core glowing faintly blue. Sheer presence made the space around it feel colder. "Target the Extinction-class," Torvik barked. "All weapons, all batteries fire." Storm of energy blasts and missiles lit the void, slamming into the massive ship. Explosions rippled across its hull, the impact shaking even distant cruisers. The fleet's captains roared in triumph as the target seemed to falter. Then the light faded. The explosions vanished into the ship's surface, as if they'd been swallowed whole. The glow in its core brightened, a single, calm human voice carried through every council ship, bypassing their encrypted channels, bypassing every firewall. "You learned our tactics, but you never learned our purpose." The glow erupted into a pulse of blue energy that swept through the armada. Shields collapsed instantly, engines failed, power flickered. But this time, humanity didn't just disable them. Drones poured out. Of the Extinction class, swarming like a tide of black steel. They latched onto council ships, cutting through hulls with precision, breaching airlocks, pouring inside. Panic erupted across the fleet as crews engaged in brutal, close-quarters combat. The drones weren't just killing, they were taking crew alive, dragging them screaming into the darkness before vanishing back into the swarm. On Torvik's dreadnought, alarms blared as boarding warnings flashed across every deck. His officers fired wildly at the invading drones, but for every one they destroyed, 3 more emerged. The lights flickered, then died, plunging the bridge into darkness. In the dark, a voice spoke. Not a drone. A human voice, deep and cold. "You should have run." Torvik spun, weapon raised, but a shadow moved faster. Something metallic and human-shaped stepped from the darkness, its eyes glowing faintly blue. The last thing Torvik heard was the hum of a blade igniting. Across the armada, chaos reigned. Ships collided as their thrusters failed. Tired decks were vented to space. Crews fled to escape pods, only to find the pods unresponsive, locked from the outside. The Ghost Fleet didn't want survivors escaping, not yet. Then, as suddenly as it began, the swarm withdrew. The Extinction class pulsed once more, and every surviving ship's systems came back online. The Council crews, dazed and terrified, scrambled to retreat. But before they could, their screens lit up with a single, unified transmission. The human commander's face appeared again, shadowed, as always. His eyes cold and unwavering. "You have 5 cycles left," he said softly. "Your fleets will not save you. Weapons will not save you. There is only one choice: kneel or be erased." The transmission ended. The surviving ships limped away, their crews silent, their leaders broken. Out of 1,000 warships, fewer than 200 returned intact. Not a single world had been defended. Not a single victory had been won. On the dark side of a shattered moon, Captain Arden Cole stood on the bridge of the Extinction class, watching the defeated armada retreat. Rena joined him, her voice quiet. "They won't try again. They don't have the ships, and they don't have the will." Arden's gaze stayed fixed on the stars. "No, they'll turn inward. Fortify their homeworlds. Pretend they can still survive this." He turned, his expression colder than the void. "And when they've gathered everyone they think is safe, when their entire council hides behind their strongest shields, we finish it." Outside, the Ghost Fleet aligned in formation, silent. and precise. The blue glow of the extinction class's core pulsed softly, like a heartbeat in the dark, far across the galaxy. The surviving council leaders met in secret, their voices hushed, their faces pale. The question hung in the air, unspoken. But heavy, could they fight humanity anymore? Was it already too late? The galaxy had gone silent. The Rim was gone, its trade worlds, its colonies, its fleets erased by the Ghost Fleet. Survivors whispered in dark corners, describing black ships that moved like shadows, a colossal weapon that pulsed with blue light, and drones that took people alive instead of killing them. Entire planets lived in fear, waiting for their turn to vanish, in the heart of the Galactic Council. The last leaders gathered in a sealed chamber beneath layers of shields and planetary defenses. Every one of them looked broken. Species that had once ruled the stars now sat trembling, their voices low, their eyes darting to the shadows, as if expecting the humans themselves to walk in Crixer. The Council's loudest voice for war no longer roared. His claws tapped nervously on the metal table as he looked around the chamber. "We cannot win by fleets," he said finally, his voice rough. "Every time we gather our forces, they erase us. They want us to fight. They enjoy watching us die." Soleil of the Thaurin sat opposite him, her black eyes fixed on the center of the table, where a single hologram floated a map of the Ghost Fleet's known movements. She had barely spoken in the last hour, but when she did, her voice was calm and steady. "Then we stop fighting," she said. "We strike at the heart of the machine, not the shadow it casts." The others turned to her, confused. Crixer's mandibles clicked. "You speak in riddles, Thaurin. What do you mean?" Zoomed the map inward. At the center of the Ghost Fleet's web was the Extinction-class vessel, the enormous black living machine that had dismantled every armada sent against it. "That ship," she said. "That is not a fleet. It is not a ship. It is something far older, far more dangerous. It is their core, their weapon. Destroy it, and humanity loses its shadow." Crixer's spines twitched. "And how do you propose we destroy something that absorbs every weapon we have?" Soleil's expression didn't change. "We use something older than the humans themselves." Pressed to control on the table, a new hologram appeared, a black, jagged device, pulsing faintly with red light. The others in the chamber recoiled. The device was forbidden. It was a relic from the War of Old Stars, a weapon so dangerous it had been buried deep beneath the Council's vaults, meant never to be used again. "The Singularity Core," Soleil said quietly, "a weapon that doesn't destroy matter. Collapses it. Space, time, energy, everything within its range implodes into nothing. Even their ship cannot absorb a void that eats reality itself." Crixer hesitated. "Using it risks tearing apart half the system it detonates in." "If it misfires, we are already dying," Soleil interrupted. "Would you rather burn slowly? While the humans pluck us apart." The chamber fell silent. One by one, the council leaders nodded. Desperation outweighed fear. They would deliver the Singularity Core aboard a cloaked vessel, slip past the Ghost Fleet, and detonate it inside the Extinction class itself. It was their last chance, far across the galaxy. Captain Arden Cole stood aboard the Extinction class, staring at the holographic projection of the Council's capital world. His officers reported the latest data. Their fleets are shattered. Their colonies are surrendering one by one. Council is consolidating on the capital, just as expected, Rena said. They'll sign their submission before the deadline. They have no other move. Arden didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained on the projection, his expression cold and distant. Finally, he said, "No, they won't surrender. Not yet. They're more afraid of extinction than of kneeling. They will try something desperate, as if to prove him right." Alarms pulsed softly. A faint distortion had appeared on the edge of the system, something small, cloaked, moving toward them through the dark. "Track it," Norden said calmly. "Do not intercept yet. I want to see what they bring us." The cloaked vessel drifted closer, its crew silent as they guided the Singularity Core toward the massive human weapon. Inside, the Council operatives whispered to one another. "Once we're within range, the core will activate automatically," one said. It will tear the ship apart from the inside. Nothing can survive that. But as they approached, the extinction class seemed to turn toward them.
Oh.
The black surface shifted, like a living thing becoming aware. Their cloaking failed. Every console on their ship went dark. A voice, human and calm, filled the cabin. "Did you think we wouldn't see you?" Before they could react, their ship's systems came back online, but now they were no longer in control. The vessel turned by itself, pulled gently toward the vast, glowing core of the extinction class. The operatives shouted, fighting to shut down the core before it armed itself. But the human voice spoke again, steady and cold. "You brought us a weapon. We thank you. Now watch as we improve it." The council operatives screamed as their ship was absorbed into the extinction class, vanishing into its shifting surface. The core did not detonate. Instead, the glow within the massive ship brightened, pulsing faster, stronger, as if it had just fed on something it had been waiting for. Rena turned to Arden, her face pale. "They tried to destroy us. And now we're stronger." Arden's expression didn't change. "Of course, they still don't understand. The ship was never a weapon we built. It was something we found, buried beneath the ruins of our old wars. They laughed when they thought we were weak. They never thought to ask why humanity survived when so many others didn't." He glanced at the glowing core. "The extinction class isn't just a ship. It's a seed. And every time they try to kill it, it grows. Across the galaxy, the council waited for news from their operatives. None came. Instead, a single transmission arrived on every channel, in every language, reaching every world under their rule. It was Arden Cole. His face, calm and cold, filled the screens. "You tried to erase us. You failed. You tried to destroy our vessel. You made it stronger. Now there is no choice left." The camera shifted, showing the extinction class, its core blazing like a newborn star. The ghost fleet surrounding it in perfect formation. "In 2 cycles, the council will be gone. Your worlds will submit or they will follow," the feed cut. And across the galaxy, single truth settled in every mind. The humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were becoming something far worse. The deadline arrived. 2 cycles had passed since Captain Arden Cole's last transmission. Across the galaxy, council-controlled worlds watched the skies, praying the humans had been bluffing. But deep down, everyone knew. The Ghost Fleet didn't bluff. The extinction class didn't bluff on the council capital. The surviving leaders gathered in their fortified command center beneath the planet's crust. Above them, layers of planetary shields shimmered in the atmosphere, reinforced by orbital guns, dreadnoughts, and planetary defense grids. It was the most fortified world the galaxy had ever built. Crixer stood by the central display, his claws tapping against the metal as the tension aided him. "If they come, we hold. If the extinction class appears, we throw everything we have. At it, we don't surrender. We don't kneel." Salai, her black eyes as unreadable as ever, sat in silence. She knew this wasn't about courage anymore. It was about inevitability. A warning klaxon echoed through the chamber. Sensors had picked up movement at the edge of the system. Not a fleet, not a single ship. The Extinction Dash class. It slid into the system like a shadow, its black hull absorbing the starlight, its glowing core pulsing slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Around it, the Ghost Fleet emerged, hundreds of ships in perfect silent formation. They didn't rush. They didn't fire. They simply advanced, steady and relentless. The Council's fleet opened fire first. A storm of energy blasts, missiles, and gravitic warheads streaked toward the human formation. The void lit up with detonations, and then it went dark. The Extinction class pulsed once, its glow brightening. The explosions were drawn inward, absorbed as if the ship itself drank the energy. The Council's fleet saw their weapons achieve nothing, not even a scorch mark on the massive vessel's hull. Then the voice came, reaching every ship, every station, every city on the planet below, ardencole.com. "Cold, this is not war." He said, This is the end of an empire that thought itself untouchable. An empire that called us prey. Today, the galaxy changes forever. The extinction class's core began to pulse faster. Blue light spread along its hull, connecting to the surrounding ghost ships. The fleet moved as one, their formation tightening, into a perfect sphere around the planet. And then the light exploded outward. It wasn't a weapon in the conventional sense. It wasn't fire or plasma or kinetic energy. It was something older, deeper, gravitational pulse that ripped through space itself. The planet's shields buckled instantly, shattering like glass. Orbiting warships spun out of control, crushed by tidal forces before they could even fire again. The pulse hit the surface, silencing entire cities in seconds as the ground itself split and collapsed. The Council's capital, its armies, its leaders, its defenses, was gone within minutes. Where the planet had stood, a dark void remained, filled with slowly spiraling debris. The extinction class hovered at the center, its glow dimming back to a steady hum. Across the galaxy, the destruction was broadcast live. Not as a warning, as a message. Arden Cole's face appeared once more on every screen, his eyes calm, his voice level. The Council is gone. Their empire is finished. Those who remain have two choices: submit to the new order, or vanish, as they did. But then his expression shifted, just slightly. Understand this. We do not do this for power or revenge. Humanity survived your empire, your wars, your chains, because we found something long before you ever noticed us. This ship, this fleet was not built by us. It was left behind by something far older. The image shifted to show the extinction class. From above, its massive black form surrounded by the silent ghost fleet. Its core pulsed brighter, and faint lines began to spread across space around it, forming patterned circles, spirals, shapes that didn't belong in natural space. Rena's voice joined his. It's quiet but carrying. The galaxy isn't ready for what's coming. The species that built this seed didn't leave it behind as a weapon. They left it as a warning. And when we unearthed it, we understood. Arden's gaze returned to the camera. We are not just conquering you. We are uniting you, because the thing that left this behind is coming back. And if we are still divided, none of us will survive. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, silence followed. Not the silence of fear alone, but the silence of a revelation. The humans hadn't just overthrown the Council. They were preparing the galaxy for something even worse, something that made even the extinction class look small. Above the void where the Council's capital had once been, Ghost Fleet began to move, not to conquer, but to gather. Its ships spread outward, forming patterns across the stars, preparing defenses, building something vast. The extinction class pulsed again, its glow casting eerie light across the debris of the fallen empire. In the darkness of space, Captain Arden Cole turned to Rena. They'll hate us for what we've done, she said quietly. They'll fear us, Arden replied. But when the real war begins, they'll thank us. Outside, the core of the extinction class brightened, illuminating the endless night as the first whispers of something far beyond human or council. Design began to stir in the void. The humans had stopped being prey. Now they were the galaxy's only chance at survival, or its first step toward extinction.